I am not a wrestling fan, but I am aware of the tropes in wrestling where you have someone kind of wins a round, and then from the rafters, someone appears to challenge them. We have, from the rafters, one of the most distinguished critics in all of AI, a distinguished AI scientist. We have Dr. Gary Marcus. Gary Marcus, everyone.
Thank you for giving me a microphone. So I listened to you. I disagreed with almost everything you said. And I'll just start with one, which is about the economics.
Yeah.
I think what you're leaving out is that the stuff doesn't work that well. So the whole AI scenario right now is based on the notion that we can just keep scaling, just add more data, add more compute, and it will solve all the problems that we've known from the start and that I've been writing about for years, like hallucinations, reasoning errors, and so forth. But what the field has started to recognize, and it's not just me anymore, but people like Ilya Sutskever, Rich Sutton, and so forth, is that it's not really working. Ilya Sutskever just said we need to go back to the drawing board. Rich Sutton, who came up with the bitter lesson, called me out and said, "Thank you, Gary. You were right, and you were ahead of all of us." Like the tone is changing. So that's one side. And then productivity isn't there. So there have been a bunch of studies. MIT did the first, but there have been like 7 now, showing that the return on investment isn't there for most of the companies. So you're building all of these data centers with chips that are going to depreciate on speculation, on hope that artificial general intelligence is going to magically emerge from scaling. But a lot of the people on the inside and me on the outside are saying, no, that's not really going to work. The economics don't work unless there's a business case in which people really make a profit. We know OpenAI is losing $3 billion a month. And then you have the problem that there's a commodity, right? Everybody's following the same formula, which means Google caught up. It took them 2.5 years, but now they caught up. So OpenAI doesn't really have a differentiator. Chinese companies have caught up. And so it's going to be a commodity where you can charge next to nothing. I just don't see how you can make the $1 trillion investment work, or multi-trillion-dollar
Well, I
investment
do agree that OpenAI is suspect. So you and I are not disagreeing on that.
Great, we found a point of agreement.
Because I do believe that the model is not the moat, but the complete compute power will be the moat. And actually, you're already seeing that pivot happen from a number of companies. Mark Zuckerberg's recent Meta Cloud announcement is a for instance of where he's pivoting away from focusing on Llama and the open source LLMs. I think we've realized now that most of us that use them can use them somewhat interchangeably.
That's right.
I do think that the revenue and actually one of the biggest underestimates is that the total TAM for AI is only the subscriptions to OpenAI and other models.
Yeah.
I
think we should distinguish between generative AI and AGI, which doesn't exist yet. So
Correct.
Generative AI, I just don't think there's that big a market for it. Like you can write reports with it and so forth, but now we have the term work slop. We all know those reports can't really be trusted on. You can do coding, but sometimes the coders actually do worse. There are studies that show that. So there's some things that you can do with it, but they're somewhat limited, and not that many people want to pay that much money for it. If you really had AGI, and that's the dream that Altman kept selling, that would be worth a ton of money. That would be worth trillions of dollars. But like another study just showed that only 2.5% of human jobs could actually be done by current generation AI. So you have to really distinguish between the large language model transformer architecture, which hallucinates still after all these years, and things that you might invent. Things that you might invent might really be worth a ton of money. The things that we have right now just aren't.
Yeah.
Daniel's welcome to respond. Also, this is meant to be, Salon is meant to have many voices. And I love that we have a spontaneous debate, obviously not scripted. So if anyone else would like, if anyone else would like to rebut Gary's rebuttal, I'm seeing any.
I do think it's important to note that there was an MIT study that followed the one that got quoted and cited that actually said the exact opposite from 2 different parts of MIT. Great hypocrisy.
Well, it's not hypocrisy. I mean, they're different departments.
But I'm saying 2 departments. One came out and said they're getting great productivity, and the other one came out and said we're getting no ROI.
I've seen multiple replications of the first one from BCG and.
Yeah, I just mean there's a lot of studies coming out now that are saying a lot of different. And by the way, saying that there's a lot of hallucinations. I would look at the exponential improvements that are coming generation to generation.
That's not really true. So like. People have started to look at that question, and the more recent models are not necessarily
Look at Claude. Look at code. What people are doing. You're saying that Claude and code have not made.
Interesting, But
significant improvements in a short period of
So
time.
one thing to note about Claude Code is that it's domain specific. It's not a general chatbot. A lot of the things that I'm concerned about are with the general chatbots. I think the more that we build domain specific solutions for particular things, in that case coding, the better. I also think that the technology we have works better when you can do data augmentation with verifiable facts, which you can do with coding. So you can write sample code and train on it. That's very different from something like medicine, where we don't know how to create synthetic data that works. So Claude Code is kind of a special case. It may work as well as people say. I don't know. There was a piece by, she used to be at Verge, she just moved. I'm blanking on her name. They said she used it for a week, and sometimes it's great, and sometimes it drives her insane, which is kind of what's been true of LLMs from the beginning. You never, Kelsey Piper is the person. You never know exactly what you're going to get.
But there's a lot of cherry picking.
It's the Forrest Gump theory. Life is like a box of
There's
chocolates.
a lot
You
of